The Secrets of Middle-earth is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth, where we discuss the hidden themes and deeper layers found in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, whether in his writings or in any of the media derived from them. Today, we're discussing gifts. Not Anatar's gifts, but gifts for the Tolkien fan in your life, or maybe for yourself if you are looking for some suggestions to give to someone. I know that's kind of how it's come down for me. How about you guys?
Yeah. Most of these are from my personal Christmas list this year.
Right? These are things that would work. So this is a little off the beaten path, but we decided that we'd like to take some time to highlight the things in our life that remind us of Middle-earth in the hopes that it might help you share some of the joy that you feel when you're thinking about it. Joining me tonight for this episode are Kaitlyn Facista. Hi, Kaitlyn.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
It's good to have you here. And Thomas Salerno. Hi, Thomas.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And Jeff Haecker. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Thomas.
So tonight, this is kind of free form, off the cuff. I don't really have much of an intro to things. I know that we're all book nerds. So, like the easy recommendations are get somebody a nice copy of the books because it will last for a long time. So I'm just going to throw that one out first. So we can move somewhere else. There is a really nice copy that came out recently, and we'll make sure that we link it in the show notes. It's pricey, but it really is. It's one that looks great sitting on a table, and it's kind of in that gold leaf, really soft paper. Like if you got a really nice Bible, or if you got a really nice copy of Shakespeare's plays, all bound up in one volume. So, it is really cool. It does look really nice. And you really can't go wrong with getting somebody a nice, I want to say coffee table book, but if somebody like just laid this out on the coffee table, it would probably be really intimidating. All right. So I'm going to start, I'll throw my first set out there. And my first set is book related. And then we'll just kind of go around and we'll do one at a time and, share and talk about why we picked the things that we picked, and then kind of move on from there. So my first set is like an intro to Lord of the Rings, maybe for timid readers or for young readers who may not be ready for Lord of the Rings itself, because it's huge. I mean, if you handed a kid a book this size, sometimes they're just like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. So, and then one for a person who's very interested in history and has maybe never read The Lord of the Rings, but understands that it's kind of connected to other things that are going on. So in order, I have a graphic novelization of The Lord of the Rings that is a really fantastic way to get a reluctant reader interested in reading in general, but specifically into this world. And so this one's I chose was The Hobbit. And so it's the graphic novel version of The Hobbit. And it's if you know Chuck Dixon, he does a lot of Batman comics. And he did this particular graphic novelization of The Hobbit. And it's really well done. Like it's really, really good. And so you can sit and read it. It is the whole story. So it's not an illustrated version. It is a graphic novel. So it's like a comic book version of the book. And that's what makes it, like, for reluctant readers, this is the way that we get one of my sons who's dyslexic and is not interested in sitting down and reading a whole book. We'll hand him these sometimes, and then he'll get so interested and he'll ask, where's the next one? And we'll go, well, guess what? Here's the next one. And you hand him the novel and he's like, oh man, okay, fine. I'll read it. So it's a great way to get a kid into reading, especially if they're very reluctant about it. My second one is for kids that are too young, that are fine readers, but that are kind of too young for Lord of the Rings because the book's too big, and it's just kind of like the wording of the book can be kind of intimidating, the pacing of the book. But you don't want to get them outside of that fantasy realm, and you want to give them something that's still high fantasy and interesting. And for that, I chose The Chronicles of Pryden, which was written by Lloyd Alexander. It's a series of 5 books, I believe, and it's a fantastic coming of age tale. in a fantasy setting of ancient Britain. So it's like an ancient British folk tales kind of brought into a fantasy story and told just absolutely beautifely. All of the characters
I love those books.
Yeah, they're so good, aren't they?
I'm pretty sure I cried when I read the last one. I'll admit it. The last one is very emotion heavy. Yeah.
It is, and it's very unique. Like, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, even a lot of people are accused of kind of copying Tolkien when they write fantasy, and this definitely does not fall into that category at all. Like, it's very much its own thing. It feels very folklore-ish as you're following these characters, but you also really get a feeling for the characters. I think my favorite is the bard who has a lyre that always rings true. Flute or flam, one of my favorites. He has a lyre that always rings true, but a string breaks every time he tells a lie. And it's like, it's such a great character and such a great way to present a character. But it does a lot of the same things that The Lord of the Rings does, where it brings us in as an audience through a kind of backwoods character, and then takes us through this epic fantasy tale as he grows to know more about the world and more about who he is in the world, and comes to really make decisions about that. And then my last one is for that reader that's like really into history, but maybe not so much into Lord of the Rings. And I just picked a copy of this up. It is an absolutely gorgeous leather-bound book. It's called An Encyclopedia of Tolkien, and it's got those nice gold-leafed pages. It's by David Day. I believe that's his name. Yeah, David Day. And he has gone through and traced sort of the history of all of the different things that the Lord of the Rings alludes to. So all of the different legends that get pulled in, possible connections, lots of Greek myth, lots of Norse mythology, lots of really interesting dives into, what a character means and why they're placed sort of the way they are. He doesn't go really deep into the language of it, which is kind of disappointing, because that's like Tolkien's main but it's interesting to see a different take on all of the possible influences that built what Lord of the Rings is. And my kids, who are phenomenal Greek mythology nerds, love this book, because they're going through and they're like, oh, I didn't even think that character was modeled after, Cersei. And then they, really dive deep into why that character was modeled that way, and the analysis of it. So it's a really cool kind of history nerd pull across. I'm going to show it to the to the guys here. We have our cameras on, so they can see it.
That's cool.
It's very pretty.
Just trust us. Yeah, it's very pretty.
you can see it. We're going to put a link for it, and you'll be able to see what it looks like. But so it's really cool, and it illustrated all throughout. So lots of really neat illustrations inside of it too. So it's low barrier to read. Also, so it's kind of like a set of articles, just like an encyclopedia, more than it is like one that you would read cover to cover. So just get it, and you can leave it there and go back to it anytime you want to. All right, so that's my book recommendations. I'm not making any more book recommendations this evening. The rest of my stuff is about my major nerdery, which is gaming. So we're going to go there after this, but I'm going to give you guys the floor. Let's start. Kaitlyn, why don't you go first? What's your first pick?
Sure. My very first pick is also a book. So I have on my list the brand new illustrated edition of the Silmarillion. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but it came out in the beginning of November, and it is so pretty. It has it has these really cool like lime green page sides. I forget what they're called. The edges of the paging, and so cool. It comes with these maps. One of them is kind of a sketched out map that Tolkien drew himself. And I think there are over 50 illustrations in the book. All of them are done by Tolkien, which makes it really unique. So a lot of other editions of the Silmarillion have other artists, but these are all Tolkien, and they're super cool. So that's my first thing on my list. I think highly recommended.
Very cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I love the pages. The sides of the pages.
So pretty.
Really nice.
It's really sturdy too. Like sometimes you get a nice edition of a book and it's very fragile, but I've gotten mine, and I really feel like it's the kind of book you could carry around in your bag all day, and it wouldn't get torn up. The pages are thick, and I don't know. I was very impressed.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, so for my first one, so I went a little bit different. I went kind of some food and beverage themed. So as y'all may not know, I'm into craft beer. So there was an IPA and I'm not an IPA drinker, so I have not reviewed this product, but there is an IPA called Fellowship IPA by I think it's Brewdog, and I don't know if it's still available. I saw it in the last couple months, but again, I'm not an IPA guy, so I haven't really checked it out. But it is I'm assuming a license because it has a picture of the One Ring on it. It's called Fellowship IPA, but more generally, I'm just going to say kind of fantasy themed craft beer. Just be like something I like to enjoy my shows, like Secret, Rings of Power with good craft beer to sip along as I watch. And one of my favorites, it's not affiliated with Tolkien at all, but it's called Dragon's Milk. So it's by New Holland Brewing in Michigan. And they do their thing is barrel aged, or it's a barrel aged stout. So that's kind of my wheelhouse is stouts and dark beers. And they have kind of their standard Dragon's Milk stout. And then they do like a couple a year where they do different variants. Like I think this year they did a s'mores themed one. So they kind of add the kind of flavors of a s'more into the barrel aged beer. And I have not found that one, but yeah, just generally, I'm going to recommend or just say craft beer. In the past, and I think they made it when The Hobbit was coming out, but there were some Hobbit licensed beers, and I think I have a bottle. I think I saved the bottle of it, but this would have been like almost 10 years ago when those movies were in the theater.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm just going to recommend craft beer, and I like to try to theme it if I can. So like a Dragon's Milk was a good one. And then if you search on the internet for, Tolkien tankards or Tolkien mugs or anything like that, you're going to find a ton of, on Etsy and various sites. So just kind of, if you want something to go with it, there's all kinds of things out there to put your drinks in, alcohol or otherwise. But yeah, that's my pick for number one, is some good craft beer to go along with your shows or your reading or whatever you're doing. So
make sure you get an overly large stein, and then you can look at your friend and say, "It comes in pints."
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. All right, Thomas, how about you?
Okay, so for my first pick, I've got something very Christmas themed, and I know I'm sort of cheating because I'm sharing this one with Jeff. But that is the Letters from Father Christmas, specifically the Centenary Edition, which is this great new edition of all of the letters that Tolkien wrote to his kids. He wrote them in the person of Father Christmas or Santa Claus. And it's this great new edition. It's got it's got the text of each letter printed, but then also a facsimile of each letter. So you can see Tolkien's little squiggly Father Christmas handwriting, and it includes all the great illustrations. He went really over the top, giving his kids letters from Father Christmas. It wasn't just a letter, it was like a whole package. The envelope was decorated with all this little marginalia. There were, these pull out paintings that went with them. It was just insane. I gave this a few years ago to my cousin and her kids for Christmas. And from what I've heard, they loved it. So I can definitely recommend the Letters from Father Christmas Centenary Edition as a great Tolkien-themed Christmas gift. And there's some crazy stuff in it. There's some of the things that Father Christmas writes to the Tolkien children about includes epic battles at the North Pole with armies of goblins. Santa Claus
awesome,
versus armies of goblins
with his polar bear, or with his
being helped by the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the elves. He's got an elves and a polar bear that
help him.
Yeah.
I love how the stories just get crazier and crazier every year too. It's almost like he's building a whole nother mythology, and then it just keeps building on itself. So the first couple letters that he first started writing are shorter, and they're not quite as intricate, but then you can see it's just spiraling. It's It's snowballing out of control.
That is so
And
cool.
I think I remember like during the war years, like Santa Claus has like talks about like, oh, I had to avoid, German anti-aircraft fire and stuff. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's crazy.
Puts my efforts to shame. I do something similar, but it is nowhere near like this level.
As
so
elaborate.
cool.
I don't know how he had the time to do this. And like, it seems like not only was he a great professor and a great author, but he seems like he's also was a pretty devoted father.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know how he had the time.
He wrote a goblin, I think a goblin language as written down by the polar bear. So not only another alphabet, but one written down in a polar bear's through a polar bear's eyes. So it was, I actually reread this it was the book from the library, so I think it was the 76 version. So it was older, but it was a fun read, and that'd be definitely something I share with my kids when they get a little bit older and can kind of get in. They love Christmas, but they're probably a little too young to kind of get into some of that. But yeah, it was a fun read, so I would recommend that as well. And Thomas, thank you for suggesting that, because that got me interested in actually going to check it out. So.
Yeah, anyone who's a Tolkien fan or who just loves Christmas, I want this to like some of the stories in this to be like an animated Christmas film. Like, can you imagine? Like, it could be like the next great Christmas special, but like brought to you by Tolkien. That would be amazing.
Put it out there for Amazon.
There's also there's an audiobook version of the letters. I don't know if you've listened to it before.
No.
But it's short, so it's like maybe only an hour long. But I've listened to it in the car with my kids, and it plays this really delightful Christmassy music in between each letter too. So it's really fun to listen to if you don't want to read it. I mean, you can do both, but it's really fun.
Well, I'm listening to that this Christmas then.
Yeah, I was even looking up the elf that he helps him out. That's kind of like Papa Elf later on, Ilbereth. I was trying to Google, does this translate into anything in Quenya, the Elven language, or anything? And I couldn't find anything, so I don't think it was, because that would have been, I guess, that would have been around the time of the Hobbit, I guess, when the Hobbit had been published, more so than the later Lord of the Rings and so on.
When you develop the language a little more. These are the elves that went north instead of west, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Okay, so I am going to stray from the book realm now, and I'm going to go into the purely fun kind of tabletop-y realm that I am used to. And I want to recommend this is a kind of pricey game, but it's really neat, and I'm going to recommend 2 levels of role-playing games. So my next recommendation will be a different level of role-playing game, but this one is a board game that is a role-playing game. So it's Fantasy Flight's games, The Lord of the Rings, Journeys, and Middle-earth. And it's a board game that there is a lot to this game. Okay. So let's just let me start out there. First off, you have a DM in the form of an app. So you get this free app that you download with it, and the app walks you through what's happening. And so as you make choices, you tell the app what you've chosen or what the way that things are set up. And then the app tells a piece of the story and gives you a next choice. And so you make the choice based on kind of the things that you've accrued over the course of the game. The setup is pretty intense, and there's a lot of pieces to it, and it takes a lot of space. So if you don't have a big table space, I don't recommend this one. Don't get this one. But it is really neat. It is a very cool looking game. You get a few minifigs with it, and you also get these terrain pieces that you lay out, and you kind of tell the story of the Journey of the Ring, but not directly the way the story was, but the way it could have been. So it's kind of like there are, any of the turns that could have happened, what would have happened at that point. So if say Boromir hadn't tried to take the ring at the waterfall, where, and the fellowship hadn't split, what would have happened? And that's the kind of storytelling that you can get into in playing this game. So it's really neat, kind of a different take on the Lord of the Rings, and you being a role-playing part of it. And like I said, it's a little pricey, but it's a lot of gameplay too. So you're not going to buy this thing and then plop it down once and be done with it in an hour and never come back to it again. It's going to take you a few hours just to finish it once through, and then you can go back and do it again afterwards. You can solo play it, but it's made for 1 to 5 players, so you can have up to 5 people sitting around the table playing it at the same time also. So very cool game. I definitely recommend it. It's quality and looks really cool on the table too.
That sounds really cool how it comes with the app and that kind of guides you through it as well. Like if someone was newer to playing that style of game, that would probably be neat.
Right. And that's why I wanted to suggest it, because I'm like, my next one's going to be like so if you're a role player and you want to get into Tolkien stuff really seriously, here's, but, yeah.
Does it give you the option of flying the eagles to Mordor? From
I don't know. We've never. The time I played, I never ended up at that point. So I would love to see that, because then, like, can we just call the eagles in? Would that have been okay? Would that work?
The eagles just wouldn't answer the call. They're like, no.
You never, and then that's the cool thing. Is like you have to have the right. You collect stuff along the way, and if you don't have the right pieces to do the thing that you want to do, you can't. You're just stuck without that option. That option's not available to you. So it's a really neat game. I definitely give it a look. See if it's something that, if you're into board games. I will say the big pieces are, setup's kind of expensive. It takes a little while to get it set up properly, and then you're looking at an hour worth of play. Period. The end. You're not getting away with less than an hour worth of play to be able to get through one tale of the story.
No, that sounds fun. Yeah.
All right. Let's go backwards this time. So, Jeff, you get to start.
All right. So my next one, it's kind of similar to role playing a little bit, but there's actually a company called Lord of the Maps, which you can get a map of your state. I'm from Texas, so definitely proud of my state. So you can get a map in it where it's drawn in a way like the maps of Middle Earth. If you've ever looked at the maps that come with the books, it's kind of drawn in that way and illustrated in that way, but they do in it, but it has the real life locations. So it's based on the actual state, or there's even countries. I think I kind of glanced through the options. It had Australia, Canada, a lot of Europe. I think even Japan maybe was in there. But they're I don't have one yet. I think it would be something cool to look at down the road, because they do look pretty cool, and it's a cool decoration piece. But yeah, Lord of the Maps does them, and I don't know if it'll still be on sale, but I looked today and they were having some sales. So if that's something you or a Tolkien nerd might be interested in, check it out sooner, because there may be some sales going on. But Lord of the Maps is the website, and there's other ones out on the internet, Etsy and whatnot, but that is a company. And I know someone who got one of their state and was happy with it. So I'll shout out my friend who I'll call them H, but they gave us that recommendation. So Lord of the Maps, and I think we'll include the links in the show notes. So for everybody.
Yeah, I've seen those before. They look really neat.
Yeah, I definitely want to get one myself. I've seen them advertised, and they just look stunning.
That sounds awesome. All right, Thomas, you're up.
Well, I'm glad that Jeff mentioned maps, because my next recommendation is very apropos, and it's one of my favorite books ever, and that is The Atlas of Middle-earth by Karen Fonstad. It is just a spectacular book. Like, I love it so much that I wore out my old copy and had to get a new one. It's just great. Like, I spent hours as a teenager looking through those maps, and it has maps, everything from like the First Age. There's like a map of Valinor, through there's several detailed maps of Beleriand going through the Second Age, Numenor, and there's detailed regional maps of the Third Age of each region, like the Shire, Eriador, Gondor, Rovanion, basically any place in Middle-earth that you've wanted to see in greater detail, this map has it. And there's some great, like, if you're into like geology and stuff, she goes into like the geology of how the different geological formations may have been made, like, and she references the text, like referencing like Tolkien mentioning like the colors of certain rocks. And she's like, oh, well, these mountains are obviously granite, and stuff like that. And it goes into like terrain. There's maps of climate. There's maps of the movements of people, different migrations over the years, of great plagues that swept over Middle Earth. If you're a map geek, this is the book to get. And unlike a lot of other, because this book was actually part of a series of fantasy atlases that was, I think, published in the 80s. All the others are out of print except this one. The Middle Earth one survived. All the other ones are out of print. Yeah. And are obscenely expensive. But the Middle Earth one is still in print, and you can get it on Amazon. And yeah, if you're into maps, or just like a Tolkien geek like the rest of us, you need to get the Atlas of Middle Earth. And also, just briefly, I wanted to mention another book, which I don't have, but is on my list this year. And that's Pictures by J.R.R. Tolkien. And it's this nice coffee table book, which is all illustrations that were done by Tolkien himself of scenes from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And as we're recording this in mid-November, it's actually on Amazon for a really decent price, like under 20. You can get it for under $20. And it's just a really handsome looking coffee table book. Comes with a slipcase. And it's just going to look great in any Tolkien aficionado's collection, I think.
And if you've never seen his illustrations, definitely go look up some pictures of them, because it's amazing what a talented artist he is in a very specific style. I mean, it's weird how much it feels like art from his world. And I say that with the highest compliments, because they're not like beautiful pieces of art. They're pieces of art that feel like they came from Middle Earth. And that is, I mean, it's for me, it's incredibly high praise, because it's hard to capture a style so perfectly that if you had to tell me an artist from Middle Earth drew this, that I would like think, oh, that's what it looks like. And then I look at his art, I'm like, yep, that's exactly what there it is right there.
I like to think that it almost looks like Bilbo may have drawn them.
Right.
That's the kind of vibe I get.
Well, isn't in Lord of the Rings, in The Hobbit, it's written by, well, the Hobbit at least written by Bilbo, and so the art is wouldn't it be by Bilbo? So
the whole Red Book,
that makes sense.
Bilbo and Frodo's life work, right? And then some Sam at the end too, as he picks up. So yeah, I think it's amazing, and I've been interested in his calligraphy as well too lately, because I've seen some clips that have been shared online of him drawing the Tengwar with a fountain pen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want to be able to do that. That looks so awesome. So yeah, very cool. Kaitlyn, how about you?
So the next thing on my list is something that I actually ordered for myself last week, and I'm super excited about it. It is it's a keyboard for your computer, but it's all of the caps are Elvish, and they also have Dwarvish too. And obviously it has like the standard letters and symbols and keys as well, so you aren't going to be super confused if you're not going to be lost. It has the Elvish kind of on top, and then underneath it has all of the standard letters and stuff. But it's so pretty. It's like such a treat. I'm really excited about getting mine, and I feel like it would be a really cool gift for someone who is like more of a techie person, someone who maybe works from home, is on their computer a lot. And you can get it in Elvish or Dwarvish. And they also allow you, so you can buy the keyboard by itself, or you can get just the keycaps, or you can even just get like 1 or 2 keycaps, because they have some special ones. I think one of them is the One Ring, and it's on the escape key. So that one's kind of funny. Yeah. So they're super cool. You can customize your keyboard. I'm super excited about it. I think it's a really unique present for someone. And it's from the company called Drop. It's like, that is so really if you just Google, we'll have the link too, but if you just Google like Lord of the Rings keyboard, it's the first thing that comes up.
That's a cool looking keyboard too.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
I'd be really interested in the Dwarvish one with all those runes. That is cool.
Yeah, I like Elvish more, but I like that they have the Dwarvish one too for the people who are more into dwarves.
I might get that for my my time spent playing Dwarf Fortress. Oh boy. Okay. See, I told you these lists were as much for us as they are for
I know.
stuff. Okay, so my next one is the more serious role player in your life, and this is for a person who's played role playing games but is also very interested in Lord of the Rings and wants something that feels a lot more like Lord of the Rings for role playing, because Dungeons and Dragons is great, and I'm going to say this: that Dungeons and Dragons is fantastic. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Pathfinder, any of the other kind of games that you play, but they all feel kind of like they're really geared toward the combat side of things, and you can't really live in the world that that you want to build. So you don't get to explore some of the more like the food and the walking and the stories and things like that. The stuff that makes Lord of the Rings interesting outside of just the fighting the orcs. And so this game is really heavily designed around Tolkien's Middle Earth. So it has elves, and part of the build for the elves is that they have this grief to them that everything's dying and they just want to leave. And they have dwarves that are built so that they have this greed to them, that when they see things, they get attached to them and have to fight that tendency to want to just stay and conquer it or own it. And even the humans have this kind of like fleetingness to them. Like they're just here and they're only lasting for a little bit of time, but they're going to burn out bright. And that's kind of the way that they're designed. So the game is called The Burning Wheel, and you can get it from burningwheel.com. It's my favorite RPG. If you watched, or if you listened to us play it on the Star Wars podcast, that's the game that we were playing, just kind of a Star Wars version of it. But the original game itself is designed around Lord of the Rings. This is actually probably I think my cheapest pick from this group, except for the books themselves.
Oh, really? I would have thought it was more expensive.
No, and see, here's the thing: is like you buy the core book for about $35, and that's all you need. Honestly, that's really it.
That's not bad.
And now I am going to say that you're not going to be handheld. So like with Dungeons and Dragons, you can go out and buy some core rule books, and then also some adventure paths that'll, if you're a new GM, you can just be guided through. You're going to have to make your own stuff up. There's no hand holding in this one. It's just, here's the rules, go do it. and so that's the kind of downfall of it. But if you have had any previous RPG experience, or if the person that you're buying this book for has had any previous RPG experience, it's definitely a treat, because it's a really great, very different take on how to play the game. It's a lot more about living in the world than it is just about kind of fighting through the combats that you're going to be set up against. And it's a beautiful book too. I have to say, it looks like a novel. It's got nice pages to it, and a really good feel, and a beautiful cover.
That's always nice when a gift is practical and also beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, so that's my third recommendation here. So Thomas, let's go with you this time.
Okay. You can tell, except for some stuff at the end, most of mine are books tonight. And this is another one of my favorite books, but I think it's kind of overlooked by Tolkien fans, and that is Tales from the Perilous Realm.
Ooh.
And this is a collection of some of Tolkien's poetry and shorter fiction. And this hardcover, which is still available on Amazon, is beautifully illustrated by Alan Lee. So you've got just some incredible pencil sketches in here. And except for some of the poetry, which is based around Tom Bombadil, there's actually very little Middle-earth content in this book. But it's really fun to see some of his other fiction. And I think that this is great for kids, and for young kids and families, because I think a lot of these could be read aloud. They're that kind of fairy tale kind of story. Like one of my favorites is Rover Random, which is this story that Tolkien wrote for one of his sons when he lost his favorite toy dog at the beach. Tolkien just went and wrote an entire story explaining that no, the dog wasn't lost. He actually went on an adventure to the moon and all of this other crazy stuff. And it's just amazing. Cool. There's another humorous fantasy story called Farmer Giles of Ham, which is about this kind of accident-prone farmer who ends up saving the kingdom from a dragon and becoming king Like the people just hail him king, and he's just like, oh, I guess I'm king now, and all the problems that come from that. It also includes the seminal essay on fairy stories, which is great.
Nice.
It has the whole thing, and it has one of my favorite Tolkien stories, Leaf by Niggle, which is kind of a semi-autobiographical tale about this little guy called Niggle. He's a painter. He's trying to finish this great painting of a tree, but his neighbors keep interrupting him. And then he has to go on some sort of journey, and he thinks he'll never finish the painting. I won't spoil what happens at the end, but I got teared up because it's kind of Tolkien meditating on, will I ever finish this legendarium thing that I'm working on? And so there's just a lot of great stuff in Tales from the Perilous Realm. I mean, I love this book so much that I took the name for my own podcast from it, The Perilous Realm. So I just love this book. And I really think these stories need to be read by more Tolkien fans. He wrote other stuff outside of the main legendarium thing, and they're really worth checking out.
Definitely. I think inside of his legendarium, some of the best stuff is the poetry and the songs. Right? Yeah. So yeah, very cool. I know my kids love it when I'm reading the books, because I read the books aloud to them, and they love it when we get to that point where I have to sing something, and I don't know how I do it, but it's possibly because I just have this fiction so like stuck in my head that I will sing with the same voice every time that I get to a character singing a particular thing, and they're like, how do you do that, Dad? And I'm like, I'm just that good, it's like, yeah, totally. Like, your father is an actor. So yeah, but I love that part of his stories there. It's just amazing. All right, let's go, Jeff. You're up next.
Sure. So I have kind of two that go together. So I'll just kind of do them together. But, we've talked about the books, and we recommended, or we said there's a very nice new version of Lord of the Rings out there. But if maybe Audible or audiobooks are more your thing, and I've not heard these myself, but Andy Serkis has semi-recently narrated Lord of the Rings, and he did The Hobbit, and he is doing the Silmarillion, I read recently.
Oh,
so
that's crazy. I can't believe it.
For those who don't know, Andy Serkis was Gollum in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and just a fantastic actor who recently showed up in another popular property. No spoilers if you haven't watched it, but if you know, you know. But so that is something that I would be. I don't audiobook too much. I do sometimes, but that's one I'm considering looking into checking out, just because he's a great actor, and just hearing his take on that would be really cool. And along with the audiobooks, I'm just going to recommend the films as well, the Jackson films, because as I've said before, I've seen the films more than I've read the books, just because the books or the movies came out when I was in early high school, early mid high school, so. And it was like a big thing with all my friends going to see him, and like quoting them at each other all the time. And so I love the films, and especially the extended editions. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what, just because I've seen the extended editions so much more, I couldn't tell you what's not in them anymore compared to the original.
Oh, extended edition or nothing is what
exactly,
it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I love the films, and I try to watch them about once a year. I don't always get to that just because and usually I have to do it over several days. But so definitely, if you've never seen the films, and I think I want to say they're streaming on HBO Max, at least in the US, I think, both regular and extended. And I think the regulars might be on Amazon. I'm not sure. But
I think they are. I think they're on Prime. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I love the films. So. And then to a lesser extent, the Hobbit movies, at least the first one is pretty good and enjoyable. They kind of are hit or miss after that. I still enjoy them, but definitely, they strayed a little bit further away from Tolkien.
There's a
some
fan
aspects.
edit. There's a fan edit that brought them back
really?
into. It's a 4-hour
I've
long
heard of
fan
that.
edit that does The
Okay.
Hobbit. It's good. It's.
Okay.
I mean, it's choppy because obviously they didn't have
Yeah.
the ability to cut the music together and everything, but it's good.
Yes. Yeah. So just recommending the films. I think I've purchased the extended editions of at least Lord of the Rings at least twice because I think my DVDs got scratched up too much. And even I don't know that I ever made it all the way through all of the behind the scenes content, but just because back when those were coming out, it was like nothing like this had ever been done for a film, like essentially a 10-hour, 9 to 10 hour movie epic, and they did it so much real stuff instead of just all CG and just all the behind the scenes, all the hearing the actors talk about it is very cool. So yeah, just recommend the films, whether if you purchase them digitally or if you go old school and get the DVDs, the extended editions are highly recommended. So
Yeah, and I can vouch for the Andy Serkis readings of at least The Hobbit. We did The Hobbit. We do audiobooks in the car, so as we're driving around places, and we checked out Andy Serkis's Hobbit, and it is fantastic. He's such a phenomenal voice actor.
I like his Hobbit. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. He really catches the mood of what's going on too in a very good way. So yeah, doubly recommend Andy Serkis. That's a good suggestion. All right, Kaitlyn, how about you?
So my next item on my list is a company called Shire Pipes, and they make, we know Tolkien loved smoking a good bit of pipe tobacco. Obviously, this is a present for adults who are responsible and make good choices, and but we know that Tolkien loved a good bit of pipe tobacco, and so there's this company called Shire Pipes, and they make these officially licensed tobacco pipes that are all inspired by Lord of the Rings characters. So they have the really long church warden style Gandalf pipe. They have one like that. And they all have really cool etching on the sides, like wood burn etching. They've got a Hobbiton one that's a little bit smaller. And then they have an Aragorn pipe. And they're all just super cool. So if you have someone in your life who likes a good pipe occasionally, this is a really cool idea.
That's really cool. Those are good looking pipes too.
They're really pretty. I have a couple of them, and they're super nice.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be great showpieces, even if you didn't smoke and you just wanted something to put in front of your awesome copy of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like put up on the bookshelf. Yeah.
Or for
That's a good idea.
cosplay purposes.
Mhm.
If you're like doing
Yes.
Gandalf
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
but then you
Yeah,
got to
they're
nail
really
the
cool.
smoke ship going.
Oh, yeah.
Go big or
that,
go home.
That can be done in cosplay. I can figure out how to make that one work.
Somehow.
Okay, so my last one is probably this is the most life-changing recommendation that I'm going to make, and it's not the most expensive out of the group, sort of, but it's one of those that it's going to make an addiction, and so I just want to forewarn people that this is the kind of thing that is going to happen. There is a Middle-earth themed tabletop war game that Games Workshop produces. Now, Games Workshop, if you know anything about tabletop war games, they do the Warhammer franchise, so Warhammer 40K and the Age of Sigmar. But they have a Middle-earth themed variant on tabletop wargaming rules. You pick your army. You pick if you're going to be Rohan, if you're going to be Isengard, if you're going to be the Gondorum. You pick which army you're going to be. You get a group of unpainted, unfinished miniatures that you glue together, paint to your specifications, whether it be movie accurate or book accurate or whatever you want to make up. And then there's a set of rules that you can go to your local hobby shop and play against other people. And it's pretty widespread. So you will probably be able to find someone that plays. They have some really good entry sets. So it's like an entry army. But I do have to preface this by saying, like, when you look at the price, you're going to see these nicely painted figures. And the price is, it's like $80 for this army. But what you're getting is not that nicely painted set of figures. You're getting a set of unfinished figures that whoever you're getting it for is going to have to glue and glue together and paint and all that kind of stuff. So if it's not the kind of person that likes that thing, be aware of that. There are those of us, and I'm building my children very much in this vein too, that do enjoy doing that very much, that love building the miniatures and painting the miniatures and putting them on the table to play with them. So, think about the person that you're getting it for. But this is a really cool, it is a very, very neat hobby to be into. And especially when you tie it to Lord of the Rings, because you can have these epic battles that are reproducing scenes from the movies, or that are telling totally new stories from that legendarium. Highly recommend it. It's called Middle Earth. That's just what they call it, the Middle Earth. I don't even know what the whole name of it is. It's just Games Workshop's Middle Earth Armies. And, so I'll have a link in the show notes that kind of takes you to the Start Here page for it. All right, let's go around this way. Kaitlyn, you start off this time.
Sure. So my next one on my list is a company called Osha Slings. And while they do they have a whole collection of Middle Earth baby carriers. So if you have someone in your life who's a Tolkien nerd and has a baby, this is super great. But they have more than just baby stuff. So this is really for everyone, because they also have stuff like throw blankets, mugs, scarves, and bags. And all of this stuff I believe all of it is handmade. It might just be the slings and the baby carriers are handmade, but it's all made in Scotland, I believe. And their quality is super good. The baby slings are amazing. I had wanted one since I had my very first daughter, and she's 9 now. And I finally got one for this baby. And so they're so pretty. They're so, they're just very sturdy, good quality baby slings, but they're kind of like lifestyle items are also really cool for a Tolkien nerd.
Very cool. That's neat. All right, Thomas. Yeah.
Okay, so next I want to spotlight a company whose items are on my list this year, and that is Mythology Candles. And they have a whole, now that they produce a lot of candles that are based on fantasy and folklore. Oh, Kaitlyn has one. Which one is it?
I actually have a whole set of them. I don't have it with me.
Okay.
But I have the halflings, and it smells so good.
Right.
I wish you could smell it through the computer. It smells amazing.
There's
really
a
cool.
whole fellowship line of candles. So there's like the halflings, the dwarf, the wizard, the elf, the ranger. So they even have ones based on regions and areas in Middle Earth. And I just want to read some of these descriptions. The two candles I'm interested in are both Gondor themed, I guess because I just like Gondor. But one is from the Fellowship set. It's called the Warrior. It's supposed to be based off of Boromir. And it says, mood, a courageous final battle beneath the shadow of the trees, strength, honor, and determination. Smells like earthy moss entwined in teakwood, warm sandalwood with a breath of lime zest. I'm actually interested in that lime zest part. Mm-hmm. And then there's a regional one called the White City, which is obviously based off of Minas Tirith. It says, mood, trees upon a field of midnight blue. Stars circle a fair white tree. The flag flutters above the high seat of kings. Of old stand guard over their cherished city. Smells like fresh air over high stone walls and spiced with white birch. These candles sound awesome, so I definitely want to get my hands on them. That's definitely I've never really done those kind of like scented candles before, but they just sound great. So I want to get a couple of those, and I've seen them advertised around. Hey, Kaitlyn, have you enjoyed the ones that you've had?
Yeah, I really like this halfling one, and they also have one called the Shadowlands that's like based off of Mordor, and I've been on a big Mordor and like Sauron kick after Rings of Power. So I was like, I want to try this one. This is my next one on my list.
Awesome. Man, I'm gonna have to check those out. My wife is really big. We just burn them on the stove. So like after we get done cleaning in the morning, you just put one on the stove, light it, and then just leave it there for most of the day, and it smells great. And then just blow it out when you're ready to start cooking dinner.
Oh, done. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, these ones have a really nice, strong scent. So it's not like the kind of candle that you can't actually smell. Like these are good candles.
Nice.
That's cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Very neat. All right, Jeff, you're up.
All right. So my last one is circling back to food and drink themed. Since and it's as far as I could tell, there is not an official recipe book based on Tolkien, based on my Google searching. But the one I found that seemed to be pretty well reviewed, again, I don't have it myself, but it definitely is something I would be interested in, is the specific name of it is Recipes from the World of Tolkien, Inspired by the Legends. And it's a cookbook, and it has some food and drink recipes in it, but it has I was just kind of searching through what I could find on the internet, but it has Barliman Butterbur's blackberry pie as a recipe.
Nice.
It has mulled wines of Moria. It had a Bilbo's seed cake. It has looks like they have a limbus recipe. So it looks like it has some kind of Tolkien themed artwork in it as well. So it again, I don't have it, but it looks like it could be a pretty cool not only good recipes, but also good, some good artwork to kind of get you in the mood and in that mindset. So maybe for the next season, you could, bake something or make something to go with with the next season of Rings of Power. So.
Does that one have a black cover?
This one is it's a green cover.
Oh, okay.
From what I could see from Amazon's it's like a green kind of like foliage border, and it just recipes from the world of Tolkien. But there's there are a couple out there, so I'm sure any of the kind of
I saw that there was one Tolkien cookbook at Costco right now. Someone was telling me about it. So I don't have Costco here, but if you guys have Costco where you live, you might be able to find one there.
Yeah. So I'm all for food and drink. So making merry. So make something good, drink something good. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was looking on Etsy for some ideas this time around too, and they had like a potatoes shirt, and I was like, that's awesome. Just potatoes, mash them,
boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
It was great.
What's taters? With my kids, we call potatoes taters. So every time we're having potatoes, I'm like, they're like, what is this, taters? And I just imagine that scene. It's in my head from that from the film.
Potatoes. So. Oh man. Okay. All right. Lightning round. So I think my last pick there, if you have a kid that's into kind of knickknacks and stuff, Funko Pops are really popular. They're these little bobblehead dolls. So it's like a tiny body, big head, and the head kind of bobs up and down. There is a Sauron Funko Pop that is very cool. It is adorable and hilarious, and definitely something I want on my desk. So it's the Dark Lord in tiny form with a gigantic head. So that's my last
I'm ordering
recommendation.
that right now.
Definitely, it's very cute. It really is. All right. So anybody else, others that we haven't gone over yet?
Yeah, I wanted to spotlight this great piece of art by an artist named Jake Bartok. I follow him on Twitter. I believe he's from Australia, but he has this amazing... Now, my other great love is Star Wars. Besides Middle-earth, I love Star Wars. And he's done this amazing mashup of Star Wars with the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films. And it's a painting called The Lord of the Stars. And it has all the characters done up as in Star Wars regalia. So you have Aragorn with a lightsaber. All the elves are either, I think they're Pantorans or Chiss aliens.
Yeah,
because of the blue. Yeah. And it's just great. Boromir has a lightsaber. The halflings are all Ewoks.
Oh no, that's so cute.
It's cute.
It's really great. And the orcs and stuff are battle droids, which is really cool. Oh, and because Christopher Lee played both these characters, you have Saruman wielding Count Dooku's lightsaber.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Which is really, really cool.
It's a good touch.
Yeah, I want this painting. I have a couple of his other pieces of art, including one which is Obi-Wan done up in a kind of Middle-earth style. He's like a medieval knight. But
Nice.
yeah, Jake Bartok just does fantastic art of Star Wars, Star Trek, Middle-earth. Like, seriously, you can check out his whole selection. We'll have the link in the show notes. But I definitely want his Lord of the Stars painting, because it combines my two favorite fictional things. I'm like, I need this on my wall right now.
This is really cool.
That's awesome.
Anything else from you, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, my very last one is there's this company called Shire Post Mint, and it's really unique. They make all kinds of different little coins, like collectible coins, and they have a whole line of Middle Earth coins. And they also make jewelry too. So they're just like little coins. They've got some with the two trees of Valinor on them. They've got some elvish looking ones, some dwarvish looking ones. Just really unique if you have someone who's really into Tolkien who likes collecting things. This is a great place to look.
Very cool. All right.
I just had one more thing, and
Okay,
that is the new Fall of Numenor book, which just came out as of our recording. So, and this is especially cool for anyone who's just seen, the Rings of Power and is like, well, I really want to know what Tolkien's actual Second Age was like. This book is going to be really convenient because it's collected, I think, pretty much all his Second Age material into one volume. And it's illustrated again by Alan Lee, and I've seen pictures of some of the paintings inside. They look beautiful. And it's all done, this is very interesting, in chronological order based on Tolkien's The Tale of Years. So for each event, there's like a corresponding year. And it just takes you through the whole Second Age story. And that's definitely on my list for this year, because as of now, the Second Age material is kind of scattered around. I mean, some of it's in the Silmarillion, some of it's in the Unfinished Tales. It's all over History of Middle-earth. But this is just like, if someone asks you, where can I read more about the Second Age? Now you have just one volume that you can recommend to them instead of like 5 or 6 volumes.
Maybe over here. Maybe
I'm
over
super
here.
excited for that. I pre-ordered mine, but it won't be here till the end of the week or something.
That's
terrible
that's
waiting.
rough. It's hard waiting for that kind of stuff.
Everyone else already has it. It came out on the 10th in England, but we get it later here. It's terrible.
And the cover is awesome. It's the Downfall of Numenor. And apparently, if you look really close on the cover, there's a tiny Sauron shaking his fist as the great wave comes to envelop the city.
Now, does
That's
it look
amazing.
like the Halbrand actor?
Oh yeah, can you imagine?
Spoiler alert.
They had to let it out after the season just to make sure that it didn't.
Yeah, we know it's him in the armor in the armor.
All right. Okay, so I think that's it from us. As we're closing up, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Middle-earth, including Megan S., Neil P., Rhonda M., Meg P., and Devin T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Middle-earth and all the shows here at StarQuest. You can join them at sqpn.com/give. We missed something, and we know we missed something. So we want to hear from you because we can't possibly cover everything, and there is so much amazing stuff that I would love to hear more about it. So if you have a gift recommendation or a favorite thing that you have that is Tolkienalia, please let us know. sqpn.com/Middle-earth, or you can go to our Facebook page or on Twitter, or you can send us an email at middleearth@sqpn.com. We seem to be getting a lot of comments on this one, on this show from YouTube too. So if you just want to comment in the YouTube channel below the show, that's great too. We're getting all that information into us. We'd love to hear from you. You can also join us at our StarQuest Discord server at sqpn.com/Discord. Lots of fun discussions going on over there, and we're interacting as much as we can with everybody who's on there also. So that's all the gifts from us, but we'd love to hear from you. We will be back in January. We're going to start the year off with a very contentious discussion about who exactly is Tom Bombadil. And this one is a topic
So
courtesy
excited.
of Thomas Salerno. So
Can't
This
wait.
is going to be great.
if you don't know who Tom Bombadil is because you've only seen the movies, then I definitely recommend that you read the books and find out why this is a contentious issue. But it is a contentious issue also because he was left very obviously out of the movies. And there are many of us who are very upset about that, even though he makes absolutely no sense. And we'll definitely get into that for sure. So until then, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of Middle Earth.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thomas Salerno, thank you for joining me as well.
Thanks so much.
And finally, Kaitlyn Facista, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And once again, I'm Thomas Sanjurjo. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Middle Earth on StarQuest.
Hi, everyone. This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of StarQuest, with a special message as we approach the Christmas season. This past year, the StarQuest Network has continued to expand our mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture through our many entertaining and informative programs. Now we need your generous financial support to reach new audiences with more of the life-changing and uplifting programming we've been creating for more than a decade. That's why it's very important that we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you are already a supporter of StarQuest, we thank you and ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you're not yet a supporter, please become one now. Every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? Whatever level of support you can offer, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas. And remember that your gifts may be tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. May God bless you this Advent, and may you have a blessed Christmas season.